All right, let's dive right into this explainer on the rezoning, the psychological heist of 7th grade social studies. Today, we're looking at a remarkably clever curriculum that operates way less like a traditional textbook and, honestly, a lot more like a psychological heist.
So what if the best civic decision is actually the most boring one? That's the underlying question here. It literally traps middle schoolers in a rigged game to teach them a profound lesson, dropping a bomb on them with this one simple idea. It challenges our basic instincts, asking us to separate flashy marketing from hard, undeniable data. Because, in local politics, just like in life, we're naturally drawn to the shiny and new. But as we'll see, this source material shows us exactly how dangerous that instinct can be for a community's future.
The simulation is designed so that no reasonable analysis of the data can support Proposal A over Proposal B. Talk about setting a trap, right? The teacher's guide explicitly states that the simulation is rigged right out of the gate. The educators are purposefully leading the students toward a flawed choice, Proposal A, just to reveal how easily human reasoning can be manipulated. They aren't grading the kids on whether they find the right answer immediately. No, they're evaluating how the students navigate this crazy labyrinth of manufactured social pressure and misleading presentation.
Okay, let's look at the ground rules. It's a 10-day civic simulation for 7th graders. The scenario centers on one vacant 5-acre lot, the former Riverside manufacturing site. There are 3 competing building proposals, and the kids are placed into one student committee with rotating roles like discussion leader and devil's advocate. And, well, if you remember middle school group projects, you know that is a recipe for instant chaos. But together, they have to analyze the incoming data to make an official recommendation.
Now, the real trap is set by contrasting 2 primary options. We can ignore the third option for now since it acts mostly as an early distractor. On one side, you have the Riverside Commons, a celebrity-backed sports and recreation complex with indoor courts, a pool, and a turf field. Super flashy, right? On the other side, you have the Riverside Resource Hub, a community coalition-backed services center featuring a health clinic, job training, a food pantry, and childcare. One is incredibly relatable and exciting. The other is deeply practical, but let's be honest, kinda boring to a 13-year-old.
Which brings us to our first cognitive hurdle on day 1, anchoring. Anchoring is relying too heavily on the very first piece of information you receive. The curriculum hits the kids by showing them a polished, emotional video pitch for the flashy Riverside Commons first. This ensures that the sports complex becomes the psychological anchor for the entire rest of the simulation. From this moment on, every single other proposal is going to be compared against the hype of that slick video.
I am not a politician. I am Marcus Rivera from Riverside, and I am asking you to build the future our kids deserve. Man, what a pitch. That video features Marcus Rivera, a former local high school basketball star turned college athlete. His passionate quote creates massive emotional momentum. He tells this super compelling story about how a local court kept him out of trouble. But what the students don't immediately realize is that while Marcus has 45,000 social media followers, he has absolutely 0 credentials in urban planning, public health, or economics. The pitch has no data. It is pure, unadulterated narrative. But then comes the twist. Day 2 hits, and the city planning office delivers the actual spreadsheet. The raw metrics, build cost, annual users, equity rating, and community rank completely expose the boring truth. The resource hub dominates every single objective metric. I mean, the Commons costs over double to build, yet serves a fraction of the people. And while the Resource Hub addresses the top 4 needs in a scientific community survey, health, jobs, food, and childcare, that flashing recreation center addresses a need that ranks way down at number 6. The evidence is just overwhelming. To really put this into perspective, let's look at the cost per user per year. Riverside Commons comes in at $600. The Resource Hub? Just $72. The sheer magnitude of the fiscal inefficiency here is mind-blowing. It proves the Commons is over 8 times more expensive per person served. But remember that day 1 anchor? Because it was set so deep, a lot of students will stubbornly try to rationalize these numbers rather than abandon their favorite choice. And to make matters worse, they get the sustainability projections. $21 million. The data reveals that the Commons requires a staggering $21 million taxpayer subsidy over a decade just to keep the lights on and the pool clean. Meanwhile, that boring Resource Hub is projected to become completely self-sustaining by year 4 through clinic insurance billing and state grants. At this point, the fiscal case for the flashy rec center is completely collapsing. So, how exactly does this psychological pressure cooker build? Let's trace the 10-day timeline. Day 1, the anchor is set. Day 5, the bandwagon poll. Day 9, the committee vote. Day 10, the envelope reveal.
The genius of this source material is its discovery-first approach. Teachers are strictly instructed not to teach the vocabulary of cognitive biases up front. Instead, the kids experience the immense pressure of these biases firsthand, day after day. They're allowed to make mistakes, to feel the pull of the crowd, and struggle with conflicting info before ever learning the official names for what's happening to them.
Which leads us directly to authority bias, trusting an authority figure over the evidence. This peaks around day 3. Even when confronted with undeniable data from a coalition of nurses and social workers boasting 85 years of community service, the students instinctively lean into authority bias. They mistakenly equate a highly likable local sports celebrity with genuine public health expertise. Honestly, they trust Marcus Rivera's charisma way more than they trust a dry bulleted fact sheet from actual credential professionals.
Then, right when the evidence seems too heavy to ignore, the curriculum dials up the social pressure with the Day 5 class poll results. It shows a massive 74% of the class supporting the Riverside Commons, 15% for the Marketplace, and the Resource Hub trailing at 11%. But here's the catch: the big headline completely fails to mention the response rate. The wealthier Hill District near the site responded at a massive 78%, while the low-income Willow Creek neighborhood, the people who most desperately need the clinic, only responded at 23%.
And there it is, the bandwagon effect, adopting a belief because many others hold it. This engineered polling gap triggers it perfectly. It actively forces students to choose between defending isolated facts or just surrendering to the overwhelming safety of the crowd. The poll validates the popular choice, making it incredibly uncomfortable for the few students who actually read the data to stand up and fight for the Resource Hub. Because a poll, as the curriculum smartly points out, reflects who spoke up, not necessarily who actually needs the help.
Next, the curriculum hits them with community testimonials. Real indoor courts, a pool, a gym. I would be there every single day. This is what Riverside needs, something for us. That's from Tyler, age 13. Tyler is a basketball player who just wants a safe place to play after school with the lights on. This is a brilliant, deliberate trap. It's designed to pull at the student's empathy for someone exactly their own age. Tyler sounds exactly like the kids sitting right there in that 7th grade classroom.
So, what's happening here? In-group bias, favoring one's own group over outsiders. Tyler's quote actively leverages this bias. It causes 7th graders to fiercely advocate for a youth recreation center that serves people who look and act just like them while completely overlooking folks like James. James is a 71-year-old veteran from the source material whose car broke down, causing him to miss 3 distant doctor's appointments. The curriculum forces the kids to realize they're actually prioritizing their own demographic at the expense of the wider community.
To safeguard against these emotional blind spots, the simulation pushes them to a final decision by day 9, but it introduces some strict structural defenses. Step 1, the devil's advocate gives a 2-minute counter case. Step 2, they deliberate independently without rushing. And Step 3, they record and sign individual votes with written reasoning. They are physically forced to systematically hear dissent and pause before formally locking in that final vote.
That devil's advocate step we just talked about, it's explicitly designed to combat groupthink, which is suppressing dissent to preserve consensus. You know how it is in middle school committees. Most kids just want to agree so they can finish the project and go to lunch. Consensus feels good. It feels safe. But the curriculum teaches them that protecting the lone voice of disagreement, even when it's super annoying, is absolutely vital for arriving at sound, evidence-based civic decisions. Dissent isn't a delay. It's a structural requirement for finding the truth.
And then we finally arrive at the Day 10 reveal. Students open sealed predictions they filled out on Day 0, and they finally name the 6 biases that manipulated them. They get the vocabulary for what they've been feeling all week. When they see the gap between their confident early predictions and the undeniable final math, the realization just hits them like a ton of bricks. They weren't tricked by a teacher, actually scratch that, they were tricked by themselves. They simply behaved exactly like real adults do in real elections.
No one tricked you. These are the same biases that shape real elections and policies. The teacher's guide notes that this moment is absolutely crucial. This concluding lesson replaces shame with profound metacognition, the ability to think about their own thinking. The educators emphasize that being pulled by a charismatic leader or a loud crowd is completely human. By giving the students this visceral, frustrating experience, it teaches them that patience, emotional regulation, and deep evidence are the only true antidotes to the manipulative pull of the crowd.
So when was the last time you let the crowd make up your mind? I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to wrap up our explainer today.
Because the true genius of the rezoning isn't just that it teaches middle schoolers how to read a spreadsheet. It holds up a mirror to all of us. These psychological traps are the exact same ones we face every single day, whether we're scrolling on our screens or standing at the ballot box. Thanks for hanging out, and keep questioning the easy answers.